What if your knitting could be a magical tool, infused with intention and purpose? In this episode of Knit a Spell, I welcome back Laura Tepes Zakroff, author of Sigil Witchery and Visual Alchemy, among others, to explore the power of sigils and how you can integrate them into your knitting projects. We'll also discuss Tempest's upcoming Sigil Witchery Oracle deck, and we'll be designing a simple sigil for knitters to enchant their stitches with magic. Whether you are new to sigils or you're looking to further deepen your practice in magic, this episode is sure to inspire you to weave even more magical intention into every stitch. Light from Lantern presents Knit a Spell. I'm your host, Katie Rempe, designer, knit witch, and your companion in this magical making podcast. Together, let's explore the enchanted world where knitting meets the magic of the craft. Welcome back, Tempest! Yay!
Yay! Woo-hoo! So excited to be here.
It's been a while since you were here. We are minus a Jim, but we are still plus all of the magic.
Jim's here in spirit.
Always. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for Jim, there would be no podcast. Hey, Jim.
Hi.
Yes. And when you were here last time, we were talking about your previously new deck, the Anatomy of a Witch Oracle.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's been a minute.
Today, we're going to talk all about sigil witchery for knitters. So could you start by explaining what a sigil is?
Sure. So essentially, a sigil is a mark, a shape, or symbol that is created by human beings, part 2. And part 3 is believed to have magical properties. So it's essentially a symbol made by humans that is believed to have magical properties, which covers a wide range of things.
I saw in your book you break down the difference between the sigil, the motif, the symbol, the sign. And since this season is all about all of those things, I was extra geeked out to learn the little details of how you define each one. If this book is not yet part of your witch and magical making library, just search Tempest and then add all. And so in the first book here, it introduces the idea of a fresh and accessible approach to sigil making and sigil magic. How do you feel that modern witches and magical makers can benefit from creating their own?
The sigil witchery method in particular, of course, there are so many different ways, but what this best works for is you understand exactly what's going into it and that you have carefully brainstormed those concepts. So you're like, all right, these are the ingredients. These are the things I need that help visualize the outcome that you're looking for. And it's very much like sympathetic magic, where you might choose, this candle and this herb and this oil and crystal, whatever it is, all the stuff, as we like to say, and putting it together to get your end result, which I feel like folks who are knitting and creating, with fabrics, you're doing the same thing, right? You're taking these basic elements, this color, this thread, putting them together, certain stitches, and then getting a result that is very, very physical, very interactive.
And you have the ability to change it or take your own interpretation of it anytime, which is also part of the fun. Like, if you don't like it, change it.
Yeah, you know exactly what you did. You know what you did.
That's right. And so then in your follow-up book, Visual Alchemy, you talk about crafting a personal symbolic language, which I love. Personal correspondences are my jam. Could you share a little bit more about how someone might begin this journey into developing a catalog of their own symbols?
A lot of folks tend to think, like, I don't know any symbols, I don't know any shapes, I don't know any marks. I show in Sigil Witchery and in the Oracle, like, here are these basic things that we've been using for thousands of years that you probably encounter every single day and that you have applied meaning and intent to. And so what does a square mean to you? What does a circle mean to you? A closed dot versus a half circle, like all of those things. You might not think you have an opinion on them, but I guarantee you have an opinion. It's very much like people are like, I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but if you get people talking about ghosts long enough, you're going to have 10 ghost stories among like 5 people, right? Like you have an opinion, you just haven't really thought about it. So when it comes to making a personal symbolic language or a system, an alphabet, if you will, It's going like, hey, what am I using this for? In visual alchemy, I give the example of the tarot, like to be able to create a shorthand for the tarot, which you could use for pretty much any system of divination, though technically I think runes are already they're already there, but things that are more complex, right? So you're taking complex ideas and you're trying to make them as simple as possible with just a few marks and shapes so that they're easy to use, right? You don't want to do something that's complicated. So it's just a matter of like, what is it that you want to create? Is it some sort of nomenclature for how you're putting together a garment, or certain colors have certain meanings? Like, what is it that you want to do? And then start thinking about like, what are the applications I have, and putting those together will get you that catalog of symbols.
You had said you have an opinion, you just never thought about it. Can you
Mhm.
expand a little bit more on that?
Sure. So one of the examples I like to use is the hashtag. Basically, it's a crosshatch, right? That's what it's called. It's called a crosshatch. To be very, very proper about it. And it's the same shape that we find in cave drawings, all over the world. But it's also, we know as a hashtag, but it's also a tic-tac-toe board, but it's also a number sign, and it's also the pound sign. It has all these different applications depending on where you are in the world, how old you are, what you're applying it to. The same is true when you think about a circle, right? A circle could be a full moon, but it could also be the sun. It could be community, or it could be a pie or pizza. All of those things are important. Like some people are, oh, that's a coin. What you see in that shape and its context, it's going to be very personal and very much dependent on your own experience, what you've done and what you've lived and how you've seen it through up until this point.
Whether you think you're a creative person or not, just stop for a minute and start thinking about it, and your opinions will find you.
Yep. And then trust the process. Like some people are like, well, how do I know if I'm wrong? Like, well, if you feel this way about it, you're not wrong. I mean, for the most part.
Yes. It's like choosing a color for a project that you don't see the sample in. So it's always easy to make it out of the green that it's made in.
Mhm.
But if you don't like green and you're like, oh, I want it red, but I don't know. Well, you like the red. So,
Do the red.
probably it's going to be okay. Those are often the cases where people are wearing that color that day too, where I've been like, it does look good on you. See? You're wearing it right
Right there.
now. It
Right
looks
there.
great.
Open your eyes and see.
And so your upcoming Sigil Witchery Oracle deck is an exciting new tool to connect to sigils. Why did you want to create this deck, and what makes it unique?
I always like to be problem solving. All of my work is about making people's lives easier for them to be able to access their personal power, to create something that's really authentic for themselves. Giving your permission. You don't need my permission, but sometimes people just need, to have it presented in that sort of way. And now I've taught sigil witchery hundreds of times to thousands of people. One of the things that I do see again and again is where people tend to hit that initial roadblock is, I don't know any symbols, I don't know any shapes, what do they mean? And even though they're listed in the book, having something tactile to play with. So I've put a lot of the different symbols and marks and shapes into a deck, as well as design cards and elemental aspects, so that you can pull those cards to craft a sigil. You can also use them to design a pattern. You can use them to create a meditation, a movement meditation, a ritual. I feel like once folks start to engage with these shapes and marks and symbols, then it's going to just be an amazing tool for them to like, all the things you can do. Like I really I can't contain my excitement. I'm just like, ah.
Do you have a deck that you can show us?
Mhm.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
holographic.
big.
Oh my God. Because why wouldn't it be if it's all about sigils, right?
Right. I am beyond, like when I first presented it to the publisher, I was like, so could we make this extra pretty? Like it would be nice in black and white, but what if we made it holographic?
Oh my God, the book is giving me love.
And even the back. I mean, look at the detailing on
Oh,
the back. Like even the cards have
oh.
the holographic. And then you have the cards themselves, which have spot gloss and the holographic. Look at that.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh, this is always how I imagine light codes looking, is
Mm.
like kind of this holographic, you kind of like can't look directly at it, shifting sort of a thing.
They're a nice size. So I know with my previous oracles, they're big. They're big. The big children. This is about, I want to say it's not even quite half the size of that. It's, it's a little different shapes. They're a little bit longer, but they really fit in the hand nicely. It's like, because you don't need a card that big, like
Right.
this
Yeah.
big to see what the shape is and to see what the name is. So there's also, because there's 60 cards altogether,
Well, that's a
right?
lot. Wow.
Yes. So there's 54 marked cards, and then there are six. Wait, yes. Like, wait, hold on. Let me math. There are six cards that are blank, three of which are glossy so that you can use a dry erase marker on them. I know, right?
Oh, so smart.
And then three are matte. So if you're like, no, I know that this is an important symbol that I want to use again and again, I'm going to do this one in Sharpie. That's
Way to break through the barrier of I can't use my stickers, I can't mark up my book by just making it like you can do it as many times as you want. No worries.
yes,
Yes. Practice until
yes,
you want it permanently.
exactly. Folks will have to see. So you'll have to feel them, but you'll be able to tell that there's a bit of a difference. They're
Ooh.
glossy versus the not glossy. But again, you have enough of them. You just want to be able to pull those aside, though.
Oh, right. My fortune is blank.
They'd be like, what does it mean? This is a sample deck. So this is probably like one of the early proofs that the amazing art team approved. So I think the cards might have come pre-shuffled. I'm excited to see when I get like the final thing that'll be arriving in a couple weeks, how the cards show up to you.
How they're stacked in there.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so I know with Anatomy of a Witch, that oracle is in alphabetical order. These cards are not done in alphabetical order. There is an index. Don't worry, don't panic. But we put them in simplicity. So you're going to start off with the dot and the line, and it builds up in
Ah.
complexity and gets you to the elements and the design cards on top of that. It works that way. It's better to do it as you're flipping through the book and you get that understanding of how the marks are created and related to each other versus alphabetical. So that's why we did both index and the most important thing, to see the progression.
Best of both worlds.
Yes.
I love this building on the designs so that they're more and more intricate. It
Mhm.
reminds me of a sampler Afghan that a knitter might make. So, like,
Right.
the first are quite easy, and then as you go, they get harder. And then in the end, you have a blanket.
Magic.
So, now that we're talking sigils and all your symbols, I would be interested in having you reflect on a recent project that I finished. I did two designs, a hat and a cowl, for Skacel for their Wandernits collection, where they choose a country to get inspired by and then work with a designer to create designs inspired by the area.
Excellent.
So I was selected for Iceland, which I was like, oh, I mean, the land of the knitters? Yes. And of course, like the one place in the world that has a witchcraft and sorcery museum. So I designed a little sigil for protection.
Oh, look at that.
So
Nice.
now I know the one is a motif. It's small and it repeats in pattern versus the sigil, which is the one right in front on the hat. So basically, I wanted to break down what my methodology was, and
Mhm.
then perhaps you can give me a critique.
Okay.
Okay. So these are the same design, but one is just smaller than the other,
Mhm.
which was interesting because when you design for knitwear, you really have to think of it as being pixelated. It's really hard to do round things if it's not big and all that kind of fun stuff. And so what I did was I got my little handy graph paper here and got this little shape as my original sign here. So it is essentially a square with
Mhm.
an X that goes outwards from it, and then the algae sign on top of that. So it's a square with an X with Y's off of it.
Right.
For visual anyone who's kind of listening. And then this little guy
Oh, look at that.
here. So it was really interesting to design it in two sizes.
Mhm.
So I chose the square because it's obviously very foundational and protective there. And then the cross
Yep.
to represent directionality. So,
Mhm.
like all of the directions, we're bringing in protection from all directions, trapping it within the box inside. And then algae being my celebratory protection, like, yeah,
Woo!
protecting. Yeah. How did I do?
I think it's lovely. So you have the four with the square, right? The square is essentially a number of solidarity, foundation, like the emperor energy, right? So that really taps well with protection because you want something that's secure and just holds its own and can be stacked at the same time. You can add more of them. And then, yes, as you said, the cross there is the y-axis and the x-axis. So you have above and below, north, south, east, and west for that directional energy. And you also have that focus towards the center. So you have that kind of crosshair, bringing it back to the center, as well as a symbol for health. When you think about the
Mm.
green cross, red cross, etc. So symbol for good health. So we have that health supported in the center. And then your little Ys, the little chevrons, they are kind of absorbing that good energy around them as well. So it's just very like, and there's also within the Y shape, like a recognition of sovereignty and connection to the divine can be seen in that as well. And it's funny. So like I have here on my wrist, which might be hard to see.
Ooh, oh.
So this is the symbol for Baba Yaga, which shows up in embroidery, right? The Slavic, Baltic, etc. The embroidery, and it's a diamond shape with the little doodads going off of it, and it also has a little wheel shapes, which is like the base of your symbol again, right? It just doesn't
That's
have
so funny.
the little Y's there. So it's again a symbol of that protection and that magic all put in there, but it's also mobile, right? So that's the other thing too, is like with your little dots, it's like it has this little, it's like electrons and protons. They're like sharing, and when you add more of them, right, they're all interacting with each other. So you truly are building something.
I drew this symbol and I literally said, did I just draw an electron? Like, did I just copy this? Is just a science that I'm kind of like making up as a thing? That is so funny you say that. So, well, good. I'm glad that it comes across as very magnetic and opening and all that good stuff. And plus, I love Baba Yaga. I've always felt like that is my goal in life, is to become like the witch woman in the woods that has all the cats that everyone's kind of like, yeah, we need her. Scared of her. Yeah, I
Yep.
like that kind of respect.
Yep. I think I've achieved that. Like I heard somebody like walking past the house and like, I really like that house. I wonder what the story is. I'm a little scared. I'm like, yeah, right. Here we
That's
go.
right. It's working. All right. So, like I had hinted at earlier, many knitters are actually familiar with symbolism, and that comes in our knitting patterns. So, for example, we have knitting charts, which have many symbols. Those symbols direct you to do certain things to the stitches, whether they're knit versus purl or making a yarn over, or knit a stitch in a certain color versus another color to make a picture of some sort. So I've attached yet another example here for you to glean a little information. This is a diamond lace stitch pattern. And
Mm.
so on the left is what the knitter would see, and they would work from right to left to mimic the stitches in order to get what you see on the right, which is the finished object. So it's almost like a visual symbol of what your knitted project will kind of look like. And like you said, there are open dots. There are slants going this way and that way. According to your Oracle deck, I'm guessing some of these symbols might show up there. What are some equations that you put to these symbols that we as knitters could absorb?
Oh, so I find it fascinating to look at the one on the left and then the right, because the magical effect, right? So the stitches themselves are also creating a shape. How do I explain this? There's the shape that the stitches are making for the overall pattern, but the individual ones, you get these little chevrons, right? So there's this pairing that's happening of grouping them all together, and then the visual effect of the braid that happens with the diamonds, like almost like DNA, right?
Oh, yeah, helix-esque.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
helix of weaving in and out, and then it's also like floating over a negative space. So you have like this solid wall that is again interrupted, and then it's also mimicking that. There's so many layers just on that to consider, right, as the finished result, which to me is just like wow, like how does that even happen? This is like
This
blows
is the
my
true
brain,
magic. Yeah,
right?
exactly. This
Like
on
you
the
can,
left is a spell, and
yeah,
this is what you get after you cast on the spell.
yeah. It's like how did it even get there? It's amazing. So with the chart on the left, right? So you have these dashes, you have these short lines, and most of them are diagonal. So diagonal lines show movement, right? So when we have a minus sign or a vertical line, right? They have a sense of motion to them. Like the horizontal line is very relaxed. It's just it's a line at rest. The vertical line is standing up. It's very much, you know, north south type of thing. But a diagonal is suddenly increase or decrease. So there's a motion to it that isn't present with just the more static shapes. And then those little tiny open circles are the multiple choice. Like, what is it that I want to manifest here? I tell folks, you know, the open circle is if your closed dot is your point of origin, your open circle is your possible destination. Where do you want to go? What do you want the universe to fill in? I'd like this or better. And then overall, with the diamond shape, that's what I use for prosperity. You know, a lot of folks like, I don't want to use a dollar sign. I'm like, I want nothing to do with dollar signs in my magical symbols. That's just a personal preference for me. Anybody else can do whatever the hell they want. But when I want prosperity and abundance in the physical, like wealth, health and wealth area, I use diamonds. And it's not a connection to the idea of diamonds, the rock. It's the tarot, it's the playing card deck, right? With diamonds in there as representing the earth element. It's really neat to see those layers of them all together. Like, here you go, boom. Okay, you got
Mm.
yourself a diamond.
And diamonds are so strong.
Mhm.
So, other than being, you know, really valuable for their beauty and, well, probably their strength, they are naturally just so freaking strong. And you would never maybe assume that for something that looks so delicate.
Right.
But it's much like knitting. You know, the yarn itself is strong enough when it's spun, but once you've knit it into something, it's even stronger. So, just like layering on intention, you can see this pattern as, okay, well, this is just how I get from, you know, the yarn to this knitted piece. Or you can say, oh, like, okay, diamonds, that's a symbol. You can go deeper and think, oh, the holes that it's creating. Like, I didn't even think of that. And I'm the knitter, which is why I love having non knitters here to reflect on things to help me see things that I don't see anymore. Even like the stockinette stitches, the V's. I'm like, oh, I don't even see that anymore because that's just the tapestry of the fabric. Like, that's the blank canvas for me.
Right.
But it is part of the canvas, and that can be part of the magic too. So, good to remember that can be part of the negative space, just like the actual physical negative space in the holes.
Yes. So many layers.
You shared that your upcoming Sigil Witchery deck includes both of the pre-designed and the custom cards that you can create, including the ones that you can wipe off and redo a million times. Would you be up for doing a quick little design of a sigil together to invite in some luck to our stitches for us knitters if we wanted to use it on one of the blank cards?
Let's test the deck. Let's pull a few things. What do we want in this?
I think having something for luck when you're knitting, the pattern is clear, your stitches are smooth,
So good flow,
open roads, a mercurial aspect.
maybe focus.
Yeah, focus. That's helpful.
So luck, good flow, open roads, focus, content, or maybe joy.
Oh, yeah, joy and like completion. This will complete.
Good. All right. So that gives us 6. So we're going to pull some cards. So the way that I designed this deck is normally within the process is you would look at this list and you'd be like, okay, well, luck is going to be this shape, that shape, whatever. But with the deck, you can pull cards for those specific words and you can go with what the deck gives you, or you might have a violent reaction to be like, no, that shape's not right. And I want folks to realize like that's part of the process, that if you realize, no, I know this shape's not right, then that's good. That's the thing where you're becoming more familiar with what shapes you do know and what you relate them to.
Yes, it's an informed decision at that point. It's like flipping a coin, and it's not the thing you want suddenly. Well, thus, guess what? Now you know what you do want.
Yes, right. It's creating the decision for you. So let's see. We pulled the Earth card. We pulled a before card. That's a design card. We pull heart. I should show y'all. So
So
Earth
cute.
and heart. And before is a design card. So we're thinking about how we're placing them. We might put before as an important concept. So I pulled that one aside. We have the pentagram.
Mm.
And we have a petal. Ooh. Let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pentagon.
Nice.
Okay. And we have a crescent.
Oh man, they're so cute. I love how the pattern is like also in the background to make up like the whole content of the cards. Very pretty.
Yeah, it's like, well, what if it, you know, was just not just a shape, but something that's a little bit more exciting to that. And I'm just gonna pull one more card, which is the cross. All right. So with that, looking at these things here, and again, showing folks so they can see. Here we have these shapes. We have our star. Boop.
You just need a couple more fingers. There you
Yes, I
go.
do. Okay. And then I'm using Earth as possibly a design element or thought, or maybe an application for it. And then we have before. So with all of this, now, unfortunately, I'm on a new laptop, which is missing my screen, my stylus. I've ordered a new one. I was like, I forgot there's not a stylus. I realized this yesterday. I've had it for a couple of weeks. Like,
oh, whoops. Well, you know, whatever.
I'm gonna assign here what we have. And so easily right away, for joy, I'm gonna put the heart. Okay, so assigning that. And so for luck, I'm going to put the pentagram.
Perfect. So you're assigning cards to the words that we picked out earlier.
Yep.
Perfect.
And let's see, for cross, let's do for our open roads. Or actually, let's put that next to focus. I think that's focus. That makes more sense. But for open roads, I might put the what are we gonna do? I'm gonna do the crescent because I actually knew exactly where it's going to go. Our crescent is going to work with our before card.
Ooh, I love it when it just starts coming together.
Yep. We'll use the pentagon for completion because it's a nice whole shape. And then the petal will be our good flow.
Oh, yeah.
Also, it's a drop.
That sure is.
So to put these together, to fold this piece of paper so we have something I can show you. So we know that the crescent is going to go before this shape. So it's going to sit in the position of entering into this, which is what we want, right? Open roads. We're coming into this location. And I'm going to attach here the focus. So I'll show folks where I'm at. Okay. Because we want that focus to be in there. And I'm thinking about, I'm just going to check this here, open roads and focus, joy. So I'm going to make that into a heart.
Nice.
Okay. So we have that going on in there. And should we put that? We're going to do our luck. Maybe the luck will be a little pentagram in the center of the heart.
Ooh.
And I feel like for flow, I'm going to take that little petal.
Ah, I love it.
But I think I'm going to make a couple of petals.
Ooh.
All right.
We want it to be good flow.
We want that flow, keep flowing in all of those areas. So we've got that, we've got our luck. And so the last is completion, which I can use. I'm going to use my pentagram.
Oh, perfect.
right? So it's put into there. And then the earth aspect of it. So here's our little earth card we want for growth.
Mm.
I think to acknowledge that, I'm going to go back to those little chevrons, right? And maybe little dots because we can
Oh.
have seeds. So, and I'm going to, haha. So open dot into our crescent, pulling our focus to the center with our star, and then the pentagon kind of surrounding that. And also, we're thinking about this, right? So, your completion, you want to still love this thing when you're completed. So, it's also inside the heart, and
Ah,
then we have that flow. So, it's helping us to work like through time, emotion, body, all of those different things.
oh, so freaking beautiful. And it
Yeah.
was just that easy thanks to your deck for
Yep.
making the perfect framework for any sigil you could possibly imagine.
Boom.
Oh my gosh.
Boom, Stitchers, boom.
Yeah, that's this is how you knit it. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Well, that was so fun, so easy, so exciting. I'll make sure to take like screenshots and everything so that folks can see that. And if you're not on our Patreon, I'll make sure to post them over there and on our Instagram and all that stuff so that you can make sure to see this beautiful illustration. And maybe I'll figure out how to make it into a knitting chart. So stay tuned.
Exciting.
How long have you been designing sigils?
So just talking about this the other night. I've been making art since, when I started going to art school at age 3. So it's it has,
Ah,
it has now been a multitude of decades.
it's just part of art for you then.
It is, but like I've always been, when I'm drawing, I'm telling myself a story. So every mark, every line, every shape tends to have some sort of meaning or vibe or energy to it. And especially when I got to like high school and college, it really became another level of like what's intrinsically happening here when these different shapes and lines are interacting, and really seeing the power of the line. So I would say now that, if we're going to go for that, 30 years
All
ish,
right.
give or take a
30
few.
years to master the power of the line. And that's just a line, people. All right.
Still working on it too. We're still having a relationship.
That's right. It's ongoing. You know why? A line goes on forever.
Exactly.
I love it. All right. So, as you've explored in your books, sigils are all about bringing personal meaning into a symbol. What advice do you have for knitters who might want to start incorporating sigil magic into their projects, but aren't really sure where to begin?
Hey, if I was going to make something that is going to have a purpose, right? Like that's the amazing thing about knitting is you're either making a blanket or a sweater or a sock or a scarf, or it's being applied to the body in some way for most things. So if you're thinking about how it's being worn or how it's being used and what you want the wearer to get out of that, then that's an easy way to kind of go back and be like, okay, what do I want to make? What kind of shape? Is this a blanket of protection? Is it a wedding shawl? So it's about a union of energies coming together. Is it a gift for a dear friend? And what do you want them to think about when they see that? So you can wrap those layers of magic into it.
Even if it's just something for yourself, you can have a state of mind while you knit it so that anytime you go back, you'll always have that in there. Thank you so much, Tempest, for returning to the show to share all your knowledge on sigils and so much more. Please tell everyone where they can follow you, find out more, get all your amazing books, etc.
So I have a newly redesigned website that's at lauratempestzachroff.com, which is sort of the nexus of all the things. And it's also easy to find me on Instagram. Technically, I say that because my username is alchemy.arts, and that's not spelled how you think it is because I'm a jerk like that. I like puns. And so
Creative. Yeah.
it's spelled alchemy like an owl, OWLKEYME. So alchemy dot arts.
I love it.
So and that will get you to my link tree, which has my Patreon and all that good stuff on there.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to make everything available and clickable and linkable all in the description so it's easy for everyone to follow along. Thank you again. This was so much fun. And remember, it doesn't have to end here. Join us shortly on the after show. Woo! Where we'll be talking about 5 or more, who knows, unique ways to use sigils with knitting that aren't just like slapping it on there with colorwork. So tune in more to find out on patreon.com/knit-a-spell. Woohoo! All right, everyone. Thanks again, Laura, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you all next week. Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, consider sharing it with a friend, leaving a review on iTunes or Spotify, and supporting us on Patreon to enjoy exclusive content. You can also subscribe to the Light from Lantern YouTube channel to receive a notification whenever a new episode of Knit a Spell is released. And as always, I'd love to hear your feedback on this episode, so be sure to leave a comment on YouTube or on Patreon. See you next week!